share my screen, try to do two things at once. Welcome to the SURF Fall membership meeting as part of AEHS East, of course, virtual this year. We're so glad that you were able to join us, whether you're a member or not yet a member, attending AEHS or not attending AEHS. We're just really looking forward to this opportunity to share what we've been doing for the last couple months, hear your feedback and hear what folks are looking for in the coming months. You see that we're in a Zoom room, and that was on purpose because we want to hear from y'all. So feel free to turn on your cameras. You can see there's a couple of friendly faces up here already. Feel free to speak up or type in the chat when we get to we've got an open discussion section. We've got some presentations that you might have questions about, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. So we're really looking for, we're not in person, but this is the best we can do, and that's what we really pride ourselves in, is this relationships and sharing knowledge. So we're looking to get some of this in this virtual format. If I can get my slides to change, this is our overall agenda. Some quick welcome remarks from me. Then Sabina Appetz is kind enough to lead us on a discussion about fixing failures or rethinking our futures. Katie Ellick and Carolyn D Wolfe are going to be providing an update on the sustainable remediation tools review. Jason McNew and Matt Ambrish, if he can make it, are going to talk about our recent academic outreach event, and then I'll wrap it up with just some final upcoming events, what's new, what's next, and then we'll have official time for questions. But that being said, feel free to at least start questions in the chat as we go along, and probably be some time throughout where we can ask questions as we go. Okay, so sir, if you're here, you probably have some idea what we do and who we are, but if I don't know, if you just stumbled into this Zoom room by accident, we're a nonprofit organization that's looking to create a world that is healthy and resilient and improved through the remediation of degraded environmental conditions through sustainable practices. And if you're interested in being part of it, you can become a member, you can be a sponsor, or you can be on our board and participate in technical initiatives as well. With that being said, we have to start really anything that SURF does with a huge thank you to our sponsors, because we wouldn't exist if we didn't have sponsors. And so just a shout out to our sponsor organizations and a huge thank you. Okay, so a few ways to contribute, and the first is our technical initiatives. All members are invited and encouraged to be part of a technical initiative, and it's a pretty informal process. If you have an idea that relates to sustainability and resilience and remediation, then there's a space for that here. You're going to be hearing about a recent one in just a few moments. You're going to be hearing about the training videos for tools, and that's a recent one, but we've also had some larger ones like the 10 years later white paper article in 2019, the Massachusetts Climate Change and Hazardous Waste Site Screening Report from 2019. And it can also be a small endeavor, like a case study or like a webinar presentation. This is our current organization. Again, many thanks to our board and also to all of our members that volunteer and do a lot of the work. this must be set up with animation, and it is, because this is our greatest need right now, which is we're coming into election season, and we've got 3 open board spots. So if you're interested in learning more about the treasurer position or either of the at-large board positions, please reach out. Any of the board members can answer those questions. Definitely reach out to Jason if you want to talk treasurer. Hopefully he doesn't scare you away, but this is a really good way to give back, but also to build your network and learn new skills. Also, we specifically say that the sponsor coordinator position is open, and that's because we don't have anyone in that role. Jason's really been double hatting for a long time, but just because someone's name is somewhere doesn't mean that they don't want help. So if any of these areas interest you, reach out to that person, raise your hand, because there's so many ways to give back in large ways and in small ways that I think you'll benefit from just as much as SURF is going to benefit from. Anyone from the board have anything they want to add to either the elections or just this in general? Okay, I'll take that as a no. But again, a huge thank you to everyone that contributes, and it was everything we're going to talk about today was because of the people that are giving back and being really active members. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to turn this over to Dr. Sabina Appetz to lead a discussion. So she's got some slides to sort of set up the discussion and then provide an opportunity for us to provide feedback. And now I need to find the piece of paper where I wrote the bio. I got too many screens going. I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I need to pull up her presentation. But I also need to find her intro. Okay. If you don't know Sabina, she is a SURF member, has been a SURF member for a long time, but for the last 20 years, she's also been the director of SEA Environmental Decisions, which is an independent UK consultancy providing advice on ecosystem-based sediment, dredge material catchment, and coastal environmental management and policy to an international group of clients. And yes, you heard that correctly. She is based in the UK and she is up late tonight to hang out with us. So thank you so much for being here. And so I'm going to get to your presentation, share my screen, and then stop talking. Okay, Sabina, take it away. You're on mute. We're only 2 years into this pandemic. Don't worry, you still got time.
Of course I am. Sorry about that. Thanks, Betsy. Betsy called or emailed a little while ago asking me to sort of guide a discussion, and she mentioned an editorial I had recently written for our journal, really talking about how we as environmental scientists, sort of post-COVID, might want to rethink sustainable futures, that times of great change are opportunities to reframe how we approach things. But of course, in the context of remediation, I'm going to talk about how I've been thinking about that very briefly and hope that that gets you all talking. So I think for a long time, we've been thinking about remediation as a reactive thing. We're fixing failures, but also we're investing a lot of resources in changing landscapes. And I think more and more we want to think about how that can also help us create more sustainable futures. This is an ecosystem service diagram where for a project you think about what your priority ecosystem services are to think about. There are other indicators. This is just one we've been using, but projects both impact and are dependent upon ecosystem services. Next slide, please. So, as I said, scenarios of project are deeply dependent on and vulnerable to changes in ecosystem services. Of course, now we're talking about resilient remediation that is not as vulnerable to climate and NATEC. And also we have the opportunity to work with nature, as they do a lot in dredge material and other management, to benefit from natural process to enhance our remediation. But also, next slide, please. I'm not used to asking for slide changes. Of course, a lot of what we do when we do risk management is try to reduce the undesirable impacts of our remedial technologies. That's a lot of sustainability assessment. But also, when we're managing and designing projects, there's the opportunity to look for low-hanging fruit, win-win opportunities with stakeholder outreach and integrating our projects within regional visions or planning. And I think that's a direction we're really trying to go when we think of projects, not just making sure the project is resilient, but that we're contributing to future resilience. Next slide, please. So often, as I've said, we frame things in the terms of environmental risk. We identify vulnerabilities, we look at preparedness, prevention, and response or restoration actions. But when we think about sustainability, we really should think about what it is that we want. And then we ask a different set of questions and we seek to achieve certain goals. Now, these are different sides of the same coin, but if you start out with where you want to be going, perhaps you can be proactive instead of reactive. And we argue that ecosystem service framing helps balance those things, helping us think about the services we want and avoiding the disservices we want to avoid. Next slide, please. Trying to go really fast that we have time to talk. So really, it's important to think about where you want to go, the reuse phase and closure and reuse early in your remedial project cycle, early on when you're doing characterization and scoping, when you're developing your sustainable conceptual site model that will then underlie the questions we frame in collaboration with stakeholders to define and follow the project. So more sustainable and resilient decisions are made with that end use in mind. But more, how can we leverage our investment in cleanup to create more resilient futures? Where are the opportunities where we can learn from brownfield development, dredge material management, building with nature, to use these resources more effectively, to envision our better and more sustainable land and waterscapes. I think that's it. Is it? It is the last slide, isn't it? Because all I wanted to do is introduce some concepts and really talk about what people think about these ideas and how we can shift our conception of resilience to that larger scale where our project fits in the larger future visions.
Would you like me to leave this slide up or close it so that we can see faces?
Let's see faces.
Let's see faces. And I will say, feel free to raise your hand, but also feel free to just take yourself off mute and start yapping. What do people think?
Paul, I'm going to pick on you since everybody's being politely quiet.
Well, thank you. Hello, everybody. I haven't met everybody online, but I'm Paul Hadley, and I've been around long enough to be history where surf is concerned. So a couple of things. When surf started, this whole thing about sustainability was new, and now it's somewhat integrated. Things like metrics and models and calculators and things that had been around in other areas were new to ours, and they're kind of entrenched. if not prolifically spread. The whole social aspect of sustainability, people just drew a blank. And I think now there's a body of work and experience that makes it a part of our program. So resiliency, I'm in California, you know, what isn't on fire is flooded or drought stricken. So all these things have kind of come along, and surf has been just a little bit ahead of it, I think. And the model is not that, the model in hindsight is not that we change things, but more that we plant a seed and nurture it. Because really it takes time. We have to take time. So to the current situation, you know, we're coming out of a pandemic. And I think we have incubated something in surf. I'm not sure quite what it is. But between all those things that we haven't really brought to fruition and this new opportunity, I guess I'm pushing the question back to you, Sabine. What's next? What do you see as next?
Well, you know, a lot of the work I do is in dredged material management and, you know, port development and things. And we are really trying to take on the concepts of building with nature and sustainable planning in ways that are a little easier when you're dealing with uncontaminated material. My world is largely sediment, although I've dipped into soil and groundwater and stuff as well. And in the sustainability assessment frameworks for remediation that we're building, we're trying to expand our indicators for resilience and for social benefit and those uplift opportunities, that they become part of the sustainability assessment early on, beyond the regulatory criteria. But going further and really stepping back and saying, how do we put the future vision of a site and a region in the center of remediation planning instead of on the side? It's still a challenge. And that's when, you know, the argument we've been making for years is that remediation and restoration and reuse should all be on the table at the beginning, not sequentially. And how do we put that in an argument that sustainable remediation supports sustainable futures? And it's a different framing than often in the public's eye of sort of a punitive process we need to get through before we talk about where we want to go, which wastes resources and misses so many opportunities. And that has to be part of the framing from the beginning, would be my argument. But I'm really interested to see how what other people have thought and how that's folded in. I mean, we've been using variations of things like the surf indicators and a lot of frames, but how can we push forward beyond those indicators and really talk more about that landscape or waterscape vision, and then remediation just playing one part in that? Somebody else speak. The other Paul.
Good pick. Good pick.
Silence.
Are you out there, Paul Favor? Or are you multitasking? Carolyn D, what are your thoughts?
Unmuting. Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn D Wolfe. Also another not quite as long time surf member, but about 8 years. So it's not nothing. I don't know. I'm thinking that all of this sounds good and valuable, and sort of as like how do you break into this? How would you get started with convincing the people you're working with that this is something we should slow down and look at? Because I think, at least maybe more in the traditional sense, like this type of ecosystem services stuff could get glossed over in the rush to, get on with figuring out a solution. But maybe it's like fast food versus slow food kind of. Maybe sort of, okay, let's take a step back, look at the big picture, evaluate, like cook a stew that's going to take 4 hours, but it's going to be really, really good when it's done, instead of, Chipotle. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. Like, but how can we start to transition? Like, what do you do first? What are the low-hanging fruit items that you can use to get people on board? That's what I'm struggling to see. Like I'm like, sounds great. I would love a homemade stew, but like, how do we get there? That's my thoughts.
First, I want to say that ecosystem service framing is just one framing. It's an example because we use it to talk to people about what they want out of a land and waterscape within which your project sits, rather than talking about one project at a time. But you have some good points that as we add complexity, it's hard to convince people to go from their usual system. I was a US government, a marine environmental science for a decade. And we talked a lot about, because we were trying to develop tools before there were regulatory requirements. And we talked a lot about what we called stealth tech transfer, that it takes a long time for new framings and ideas to diffuse into people's consciousness. And you've done your job when a stranger's lecturing you on the stuff you were talking about for years. I think SURF has done this really well, sort of expanding the context of the dialogue, sort of in advance of regulatory requirements and practice, giving people a time to sort of get used to different framings over time. So people hear it for a while, and pretty soon they realize they don't want Chipotle, they want the stew. Because you go to Chipotle, well, you're satisfied for a minute, but you're back to the same problems, a couple years later, because you haven't really thought about how you're going to plan your meals for the week. You've just planned Chipotle in 5 minutes. So
I think our biggest challenge is, and sorry, I couldn't get to the mute button quick enough earlier. I'm working with a new computer here. So I think our biggest challenge is the people who lead our projects, let's say our project managers, the people that are on the front line, they're just getting barraged by all kinds of new asks. PFAS is a huge issue now, so they got to get up to PFAS. They're being pushed on optimization. You look at ITRC, there's a dozen different work groups that are pushing new opportunities to integrate some kind of technical innovation or technical best practice into a project. And the people that are on the front line are just kind of, overcome. At least in the US, we've got maybe an administration that's more friendly to this now than it may have been, 4 years ago. And we have an opportunity to maybe make some step jumps that we haven't been able to do because we haven't had some government support for it. But I think our big challenge is that we've all been in this game for kind of a while, and it takes a lot, to learn it. It's not like, here's this spreadsheet tool, use it, and now you'll be able to, effectively, develop a cost estimate for remedy. It really takes some time to become steeped into the thinking, and project teams really can't really do that if they're not already staffed with people who are familiar. So we've been kind of dealing with this within our company. We kind of think the best audience to try to target for increasing integration is really the junior and the mid-career professionals. They're the demographic that's really most passionate about this. And it's going to be it's their world now. It's going to be more their world, later on when we're all retired. And they've actually got enthusiasm and excitement about it. So I think we need kind of like some sleeper agents on all our projects and targeting, junior and mid-career, staff to kind of arm them with some, questions to ask and some tools to apply so they can apply some, upward pressure on their project teams, to an integrated. I mean, we'd all like it if everybody, from the, the client and the project leads were driving this, but we got to approach it from different angles too. So I think, if we put more focus on junior and mid-career professionals, we can create some internal dynamics to drive the whole dynamic forward.
Is that then part of your educational initiatives?
Yeah, I don't know where it fits in. I think all of us who are involved, and work for, different, size companies, I think it's kind of up to us to try to recruit and nurture, that type, of activity. And, as far as, initiatives, we've got the YouTube video, training. We can have other, we're doing some training at conferences if we ever get together, face to face. I think there's a number of different ways to do it, but I think we just got to recruit internally to try to get people interested in trying it. At the end of the day, it's a voluntary thing. And, some companies might have some requirements or metrics, but the bar is not going to be very high to clear because most project managers will just try to, check the box. I think all of us who have been in this a while kind of recognize that it really does have value. And if we can start communicating the value, then it becomes something that people want to do rather than it's another requirement and something that I have to do. That's why in the ITRC document, we really kind of focused a lot of effort in trying to bring out the best stories in our case study section to give people an easy on-ramp on, what does a successful remediation project look like from the perspective of the environmental, the social, the economic, and the resilience angles.
Ben, Richard, I see you playing around with your mute buttons. What do you guys like?
Neither of my teenage daughters are here at the moment to help me turn my camera to the right way, so I had to figure that out on my own. But I know how the mute button works. No, I mean, coincidentally, I'm wearing orange in an orange room, but I was at a site today where they're putting solar panels on a capped area, which is eventually they're going to do that. It's taking time to get through that, but so I was doing something that might fit in the sustainability bucket today. But what I wanted to share was the thought I've been having is, we all have many clients who haven't really looked into sustainability. They may not think it's important on the remediation side. We're still selling it as we're talking about here. We're educating and selling people. And I feel like before we've, gotten all the sales that we like to the buying on sustainability, we're losing ground to ESG because it's new and sexy and it incorporates many of the philosophies that SURF does. But it seems like we're losing ground is probably a good way to put it to something that is maybe newer, and now people are looking at their greenhouse gas emissions. And I spoke to a client yesterday, and they were very dismissive of the value of doing sustainability on their remediation portfolio. And it was all about their operations and greenhouse gas emissions from what they actually do, right? They make things. So that's kind of where I am. I don't know what the future is because, like I said, I'm losing ground before I'm getting traction is what it feels like.
Yeah, I think that the whole arena of ESGs and green finance and stuff, we have to somehow identify a relationship and a communication bridge between sustainable projects and enhancing sustainability as a scorable or rateable corporate good that they can put in their balance sheets, because more and more, this linking of sustainability scores with, the UN SDGs and framing sustainability as part of the corporate sort of, what is it, the green portfolio is going to be demanded more and more by financing organizations. I don't really speak finance, but I've been at a couple workshops lately in the context of transport infrastructure. And that as we look at sustainability and sustaining systems, that's where the funding's going to go, is the organizations that can demonstrate their cred. So yes, ESG, but it's not carved in stone yet how that is defined, at least in the organizations we've talked to. So it has.
It's interesting you said accounting, because the client I spoke to this week was more interested in environmental product declarations and the sustainable, accounting standards board. Maybe I should have gone to that 5-year management and engineering degree instead of just my engineering degree. So, but, that's a whole other realm of, they're interested in, basically defensible, sustainable, greenhouse gas accounting systems so they can report them, and environmental product declarations. That's not something I'll say a typical environmental consultant is going to do. But there was much more interest in those avenues than anything. I mean, when I started asking questions about the remediation portfolio, like I said, I couldn't possibly have been more dismissive about the ability to obtain sustainability, improvements on their remediation portfolio.
So what we need to explore is how we identify translation pathways between those tools, that those things are, that there are pathways for those things to reflect in those corporate tools. I mean, I hate finance and economic, but I've been going to, green finance for climate change workshops and talking about our ecosystem service framework for water transport, and building a case. And there is the argument that more and more building the case for projects is going to have to appeal to green finance and ESG. And therefore, just like we translated our indicators in terms of sustainable remediation, I think we need to do that in terms of those corporate indicators as well, as unpalatable as that feels.
I hate to cut off a conversation. I know several people have gone off mute, but we're already given us an extra 10.
Oh my son, I'm sorry.
No. I'm never going to stop a good conversation. So this is perfect, and we're fine. We've got some buffer in there, but at the end we can continue the conversation. If you're at AEHS, we can continue the conversation at the Surf Social tomorrow. And that's the whole idea of these conversations, is just to get the juices flowing and see where we end up. So Sabina, thank you so much. Again, we so appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to share my screen again. We're on to Gerlindy and Katie speaking on our most recent technical initiative, which was our Sustainable Remediation Tools Review.
Sounds good. I can be quick. There's not too much to update here that we haven't talked about recently already.
I don't feel like you need to rush. We're good.
It's all right. There's really not much. So I will start off, and then Katie, feel free to jump in once we get to some of the slides on the tools. We had an idea come up in the last fall surf meeting, so a year ago. It was during one of our sessions, technical sessions, and I think the conversation continued in the surf membership meeting and maybe even in the social event. And it's kind of bringing it back to basics. How do I get started with a sustainable remediation assessment? What tools are available for me to use? And specifically, how do I choose which tool? So from this, surfers who were interested in working on, sort of simplifying and making sustainable remediation tools more, palatable and available for anyone to just pick up and use, we started a new technical initiative which is a working group within SURF, kind of like a subgroup. You can really start one on any different topic that is, you can propose and is approved by the board. So we formed one to look at sustainable remediation tools. And over the last year, we've been hard at work. And next slide, I can show what we have done. We took a look at some of the most commonly used environmental footprint tools, SiteWise and CIFA. And we kind of looked at these tools, went back to think about how would someone get started with using them. And we created videos on how to do it, sort of short instructional videos. And now each of these tools has a user guidance, and the user guidance is detailed and good. But in this day and age, we thought, social media might help us out. And what if you just want to look at a very specific thing? If I already know how to use the tool a little bit, and I want to take a look at a specialty item or something like that. We'll get to the next slide in just a minute. Maybe Katie, you can jump in there. But both of these tools are publicly available, free to download, either on the SURF website or the EPA website. So if you want to get started with your own environmental footprint assessment, sustainability assessment, both of these tools are a great choice. And now SURF has these resources that you can use.
Yeah, so sort of talking a bit about what Gerlindy mentioned, we have put together a series of sort of training how-to type videos on just getting started with these tools. Really, I think it came from, like Gerlindy said, this place of, we know there's really good guidance out there. We know there's really detailed guidance on the methodology, on how to use these, but it's not the most accessible right now. And there are still a lot of people who want to use these tools to bring sustainable remediation into their projects, but are kind of just looking for something simpler to get started on. Where do I click? What do I download next? What do I type? So I was more on the CIFA side of things, where we've put together a few videos on just how to use the input templates, what kind of data you need, what you'll get on the outputs, and then there's a sort of parallel track of videos that go with the SiteWise tools. But all of these are up at this point on the YouTube page, which I believe is also linked to the SURF website. Is that true? I see Betsy nodding. So I think that's true. And I think we even have a handful of additional videos we're planning to get posted by the end of this year.
Yeah, thanks. So we've been working on this over the past year, but I don't think that this TI is really closing up shop. I think we're going to switch from monthly calls to quarterly calls, trying to keep the door open for producing more videos. If anyone has ideas or things that they would like to see for these particular tools and need help on, feel free to reach out. And maybe someone else has that question too. It would be a good video to produce. We're also open to the idea of making instructional videos for other tools. Maybe some of the tools that we talked about in our tools review panel yesterday, some other tools, anyone, we're totally open. So reach out if you have a specific tool or topic on an existing tool that we would like to do. And these are the team members. Thank you so much to everyone who went into this. I myself found that creating YouTube videos, doing a video of anything, even if it's just a 5-minute thing, is like, for some reason, a little more nerve-wracking than I thought. And I know we did many drafts to get these up there. And, a 3-minute video did not take 3 minutes to create. So thank you, everyone, for all of your hard work. And hopefully we'll get some new topics and things we can continue to work on.
Perfect. Just checking that was the last one. Thanks again to Gerlindy and Katie and the whole team for their effort. I dropped the link to our YouTube channel in the chat. If you haven't been there, it has the training videos. They're this kind of the second list down, but it also has all of our webinars, and it's a good one to follow if you do.
So
the
I think
YouTube.
that one of the key lessons I want to do is like pretty much anyone can start a surf technical initiative too. So this is just one example of one we've been working on over the last year, but I don't know, I'm like brainstorming, is there a sustainable remediation within ESG initiative in our future, something like that? I don't know. I
like that, Carolyn D. I think that, yes. Yeah, well, then it's decided. So
yeah,
that's going to look like it. I love that. Great. Well, then I will turn it over to Jason. Jason, again, is currently our treasurer, and he's going to be recapping everyone on the recent academic outreach event that we had.
Yeah, great. And apologies, Matt can make it, so I'm kind of filling in for him on this one. But this is something that's been kind of near and dear to my heart for years. Academic outreach, beyond surf, I try to do as much as I can. So it's exciting to see this kind of get reinvigorated. It was there a while ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, kind of slowed down. But one of our goals this year is really to kind of get it back up and going. I think what we're really trying to do is just get out our mission to the students. I think it's a great time because there's a lot of energy amongst the students. I think someone mentioned this earlier, and I 100% agree. These kids are coming out of college excited to do this. They're learning it as fast as we are, if not faster. And I think for us, the big thing is to harness that energy, bring them in, help them, guide them, give them all the support we can. And then they're going to become advocates on our end too for pushing this forward. So it's kind of just the whole process of how can we do that at Surf within what we've got, and what can we offer them? So webinars, publications, giving them technical tools to use and guidance, answering any questions we can. Next slide. And just overall kind of just helping the cause. So first big thing we did was about a month ago, Matt at Langen, and thanks to them, set this up. We had a great 2-hour workshop, invited any students that wish to attend. I believe we had about 30 students altogether, somewhere 25, 30 students, which is great. And ran through this agenda. It started off kind of networking. We went into different groups and got to bounce around between breakout groups to talk and introduce ourselves and get an idea where they were coming from. We had students all over the country, which is kind of exciting. Matt did a great talk about surf itself, what we're about. Then Dr. Reddy, who I think's on this call, did a fantastic job explaining what he's teaching and some of the coursework he offers. And the chapter that's there, the surf chapter that they have going on. Then Gerlindy talked to basically what you just heard, the toolbox and what's out there, and kind of gave them a rundown of what's at their disposal. Kathy talked about, I think Kathy and Chris, if I remember, gave both kind of case studies on design and building, these environments and what resilience really means, and kind of expanded it beyond just sustainability. Then I kind of talked about, now that you've got a job, now what, or not, you got out of college, how can you take what you've learned and your passion and push it through your company? How can you help, start a program or support an existing program? And at the end, we had, question and answer. I thought it went really well. I think several of us were on that call, and hopefully this is not the last time we do something like this, and we continue to kind of do these with some frequency. Next slide.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, I recognize at least one name from that event that's on the call today, and I might be missing others. So it's always great to have new voices and not just those of us that are always on the call. Okay, let me get to the
Yep. And then Dr. Reddy then reached out to us, Surf, and said, help, can you help me with some of my coursework here? He's teaching a class at University of Illinois at Chicago, and asked if we would be willing and able to kind of do some guest lectures. I think we had to beat people back. We had all of us kind of raised our hands and said, yes, please, So we have 6 slated. I think I don't know if Matt's done his yet. I know Betsy and I have done ours, which I thought went great. It was really well done. I think set up, we had great interaction, great questions. So this is something else we hope to continue to do, supporting Dr. Reddy, and quite frankly, find any other professors, any other organizations, universities that would like this. I think you're going to find a lot of folks willing to do it. I know I've done a couple of them at Penn State, hoping to get out some other places. So thanks for the opportunity, Dr. Reddy, for us to support it. I thought it was really exciting and great to do that. Next slide.
I'll reach out to you for my class at Carnegie Mellon. I've been teaching surf stuff there for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I'm getting kind of old in tooth. I'm just a little shy of Paul Hadley's tenure and Paul's. But yeah, this spring maybe I'll have to touch base with you. Maybe be a guest lecture. But I know anytime I mention sustainability, resilience, my students wake up. They're like half slumped and I say sustainability. At Carnegie Mellon University, it's sort of like everything we do now is a sustainability fabric woven into it. The quilt is being made in every area: civil engineering, transportation. It's coming out the kids' noses and the professors. So it's now I just have to get it more accepted in the general world. I keep hearing this. The last talk we've been discussing greenhouse gases since 2005. Our original tools dealt with that, but it's still up there. Okay.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And it's even when I went back and did a guest lecture at one of the classes I took at Penn State, many years ago, and they're still teaching a lot of old, antiquated stuff. So I think I'm curious to see if we started reaching out, how many universities are really pushing this button for sustainability and how of them haven't really caught up. So if they're not caught up, maybe this is opportunities where we can kind of inject that into the process and try to help them catch up. But if they are there, then it's just continuing to, high five them and help them and make sure that, those students realize that you're not just learning this in class. There's a world outside of this that when you graduate, there's a place where you can actually, implement these ideas. So I think maybe one more slide, if any. Can't remember what Matt had. Yep. So next steps, I think just keep doing what we're doing. I think we started this thing or started to re-energize it this year within the last 4 months. So I think we just got to keep being resources to students. We got some feedback about the student membership at $25 a pop. That's something we're going to evaluate. Does it make sense for us to reduce that to get more interest from the students? Are there programs we can set up where we have maybe corporate sponsors where we can have folks sponsor students? What can we do to maybe get beyond that? I mean, $25 is not a lot to us, but $25 is, 6-pack of beer and a couple subs for a week or something when you're in college. So, it could be a big difference for them. So how can we maybe offset some of that? Continue to sponsor. We do a student scholarship or student award at the AHS conferences. We've been doing that for a while. And then, like I said, just kind of continuing to get out to the different universities and hopefully do more of these webinars and workshops like we did, and maybe start focusing on, maybe we do a site-wise hands-on. Betsy and I had a learning lab scheduled for Patel last year that got canceled, which stunk. But maybe we do something like that for the kids. Maybe we set up some type of learning lab where it's hands-on, or when we get back in person or even virtual, where they can kind of walk through the different software and see what's out there. So anything else, open to ideas on how we can push this and grow it forward. I'd really like to see it continue, because I think this is our best, one of the best things we can invest in with respect to pushing this, our thoughts and our mission forward is getting the youth, so to speak, the college kids, and harnessing the energy moving forward. I think that was the last one he had. Maybe. Yep, that's it.
Thanks, Jason. That was a really great event. I'm excited about where we're headed with this. I have a few just sort of final summary thoughts, and it's mostly how can you get involved now? So hopefully you've heard something interesting on this call, and you're ready. You're ready to raise your hand in 2022 and do more and give back and get involved or get more involved. And so one way to do that is the upcoming elections. Again, if you have any questions about running for either the treasurer or one of the at-large trustee positions, these are 2-year terms. You can contact Stacy Hellickson, our secretary, but also if there's just someone on the SURF board that you know well, that might be a good first step. But you know, we need you, and you know, it's easy for all of us to say, oh, you know, someone else is more qualified or someone else will step up, but that someone else could and maybe should be you. Similarly, hopefully you've been attending our webinars. We've got them every couple months on a variety of topics. But if you have something that you want to talk about, we can be the venue for that. And Chris Schultz, one of our at-large trustees, is leading that effort. You can reach out to him and say, hey, get me on that 2022 schedule, because I have things to say that SURF members would be interested in hearing. And we've also got a plug here for our next one. That's in November. James Henderson with Corteva and Lin Mu from ERM are speaking on resiliency and sustainable remediation. Time is up. And that one is sure to be really good. And then last but certainly not least is, hopefully you all know about SUSTREM 2022 being held in coordination with AEHS. So that's AEHS West, March 14th to 17th. Fingers and toes and everything crossed that it's in person in San Diego. This is going to be a really exciting event with even more focus on sustainability and resilience than AEHS and then the SURF sessions typically have, and just a great, hopefully, celebration, bringing all of us back together to connect and to network and to have that technology transfer. It's not on here, but if you're not a member and you want more information about becoming a member, you can go to our website, but you can also feel free to contact me or to contact really anyone about becoming a member. Then, you know, we've left you a solid 6 minutes for questions and discussion, but also a thank you again to all of our sponsors, and also a reminder, if you're attending AEHS, join us for the SURF Social tomorrow. It's for the same time period. It usually goes pretty similarly to the beginning of this call, where we catch up, get to know each other, catch up with people we already know, and then usually get into some sustainability and resilience topics, because we just can't help ourselves. But does anyone have any questions, comments, rude remarks? Yeah,
hey, Betsy, this is
oh, Paul. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll be quick. This is Paul. Yeah, I think one of the other things we can get involved with is if you can just spend like 30 seconds talking about our remediation journal collab.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's a really good reminder. So we've thanks to Paul's suggestion, I think at AEHS West March of this year, we've restarted our column in the remediation journal. And if you're not familiar with it, we pose a question to several remediation practitioners that are, you know, well versed in the topic. The first one we did was on the last 10 years of sustainable and resilient remediation, what has happened, and then looking forward to the next 10 years. And then our next column is going to be on the sustainable remediation tools, sort of building off of that technical initiative and the panel from yesterday. So yeah, if you're interested in contributing to that, please reach out. Did I forget anything, Paul?
Nope, you got it.
Thanks, Paul. Rick, what do you got for us?
You're going to send out a Zoom for this tomorrow too, for those of us who are in the NEP to get into AEHS? Like the
I don't
social?
think we could. I think that one's just for the people that are attending AEHS.
Okay, all right, yeah, all right, okay.
But we have, so Rick, I mean, I'm glad to hear that you're interested in it though, because that's something that's come up a couple times, the idea of having more often SURF socials. Just, you know, we've got the webinars every couple months, maybe we just have a social every couple months that is open to anyone just to connect.
Sounds good to me.
I like it.
You like that, Tucker? You consider it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially if it's a way to keep people engaged between the meetings. So, yeah.
I think some of our best ideas, or some great ideas, have come out of those socials with everyone with a beverage in hand, just talking freely and brainstorming and bouncing ideas around.
Yeah. And it's just nice to see people.
We could do like a surf holiday party online.
Ooh.
That could be interesting.
And wear your best Hawaii shirts to be surfing.
Mhm.
I like that. I'm sure Kathy's writing all these ideas down.
I am. Can we do a Christmas cookie exchange? Now, come on, are they
That
gonna?
might be harder, but
arrive?
we can
Yeah,
join
will
and
they
watch
arrive
each other
on
eat our
that?
own cookies.
I don't know.
Cookie show and tell.
Shut.
I still miss humans too. Yes.
Could do recipe exchange.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. I think it sounds good. I mean, I know like what back to the old school surf meetings and even the surf meetings at AHS, there's a lot of mingle time at the in-person ones. I mean, you know, and here we've got an hour, 20 minutes, maybe, I don't know. So that, you know, Jason's right. I think we do, once we all get talking, we do get some good ideas going, and maybe that's something to do. Or maybe it's like, I don't know, if our surf webinars don't really take the full hour, like have like the first 20 minutes of the webinar just be like open hello. I don't know. You could add on to other existing events, something. It's a good idea to try to do more stuff like that though.
I know people got more musings just because I don't think we get kicked out of here until 10 minutes after the hour.
That's right.
I have a little thing to point out. So I just went to a thing a week ago called Suds in Science here in San Diego, put on by the Fleet Science Center. They do all these adult programs in town, and the Suds in Science thing is supposed to be like this public outreach thing where people can present on their topic in a way that's like digestible for maybe general public. It's mostly scientists who attend it, but I was just thinking with the big surf conference in March, I don't know if anyone has any topic that they think could be something of interest for an event like that, and whether or not it could be arranged, because they were talking about how they're not getting a lot of feedback from people anyway. Not feedback, but like new presenters. And they keep getting a lot of folks in like biotech and stuff because that's a heavy industry here in San Diego. And I thought it'd be interesting to introduce something different. If anyone has an idea that they would be interested in talking about, but that you think would actually get anyone's attention at something like this. But yeah, just
That's a really interesting idea. I'm going to put you in touch with Roy Thun, that's leading the Sustrum effort, and maybe he'll have some ideas of either speakers or just how we could collaborate. That's a cool idea.
It'd be fun to see something different at one of these. And everyone asks a lot of questions because most of them are scientists from different fields. So I just, maybe outreach and sustainable remediation would be an interesting topic. Yeah. But yeah, sounds good.
Sabina, I'm glad your quarantine dog is now getting the attention she deserves.
She's been sulking after a day on hours of Zoom, so yeah.
How dare you?
I know.
Gerlindy had her dog on earlier, but she had to drop. Otherwise, I'd make her show them off. No one else has any burning thoughts? Okay, everybody's busy, got places to go. I totally understand. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, for being part of SURF. Reach out if you have questions, and if you're in AHS, we'll see you later this week. And if you're not, yeah, maybe at the Cookie Exchange in December, or at Sustrum in March of next year. Okay. Bye, y'all. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, Betsy. I was too busy typing. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Betsy.
Nice to see some faces. of people.
Bye. Thank you, guys. That was